Perimeter-Centric Access Model and the ZeroTrust Access Model represent two different approaches to network security, each with its own principles and strategies. Key differences. Trust assumption. Protected-unprotected model assumes trust within the network perimeter, while ZeroTrust challenges the notion of implicit trust and continuously verifies trust regardless of location. Access control. The protected-unprotected model emphasizes access control at the network perimeter, while ZeroTrust implements fine-grained access controls based on user, device, and contextual information wherever data is accessed on the networks. Perimeter-centric versus identity-centric. Protected-unprotected focuses on perimeter defenses, while ZeroTrust revolves around identity-centric security and access controls. Perimeter-centric network access model. Protected networks. Traditional perimeter-based security approach where internal networks are considered protected and trusted. Once a user or device is inside the perimeter, they're often granted wide access privileges to resources within that network without continuous connection inspection or additional authentication. Unprotected networks. External or untrusted networks, such as the Internet, are considered potentially unsafe, so access is restricted or blocked at the network perimeter. This model heavily relies on firewalls, VPNs, and other perimeter security measures to safeguard the internal network. Key characteristics. Implicit trust within the network perimeter, less granular control and authentication once inside, and reliance on perimeter security defenses. The protected-unprotected network access model relies on several methodologies and technologies to establish and maintain security within the network perimeter while restricting access from untrusted networks. Here are some common methodologies associated with this model. Perimeter defense, inherent trait of perimeter-centric network pattern. 1. Firewalls, deployed at network perimeters to filter incoming and outgoing traffic based on predefined rules. 2. Virtual private networks, VPNs, used to create secure, encrypted connections for remote access to the protected network. 3. Intrusion detection prevention systems, IDS/IPS, monitor network traffic for suspicious activities and attempt to block or alert about potential threats. 4. VLANs, virtual local area networks, divide a single physical network into multiple logical networks to isolate traffic and improve security. 5. Subnet designation, segmenting the network into smaller subnets to control broadcast domains and enhance security. 6. Access control lists, ACLs. 7. Applied on routers, switches, and firewalls to filter traffic based on defined rules, allowing or denying specific traffic flows. 8. DMZ, demilitarized zone, a network segment that acts as a buffer between the internal trusted network and the untrusted external network, usually the Internet. It hosts public-facing services like web servers, with limited access to the internal network. Port security, configuring switches to restrict access based on MAC addresses to prevent unauthorized devices from connecting to network ports. Network address translation, NAT, translates private IP addresses to public IP addresses and vice versa, providing an additional layer of security by hiding internal network structures. DNAT, dynamic NAT, creates rules dynamically based on internal resource demand accessing external resources. Security policies and training, establishing and enforcing network security policies and providing training to users and administrators on security best practices and protocols. ZeroTrust Access Model and ZeroTrust Principles. The ZeroTrust model assumes that no entity, user, device, or network should be automatically trusted, regardless of its location, and continuously verifies trust before granting access to resources. Granular access control. Access decisions are based on dynamic factors like user identity, device health, location, and other contextual information. Instead of relying solely on a perimeter, it applies principles of least privilege, where access is limited to what's explicitly necessary. Micro-segmentation. Networks are segmented into smaller, isolated zones or micro-segmented zones. Access controls are enforced between these zones, and continuous monitoring and authentication validate access requests. In a zero-trust, segmented network model, the emphasis shifts from a perimeter-based security approach to an identity-centric, fine-grained access control strategy. This model focuses on continuous verification of trust and implements strict controls across the network, segmenting it into smaller, isolated zones. Several methodologies and technologies are commonly associated with this approach. Identity and Access Management, IAM. 1. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, requires users to provide multiple forms of authentication, such as passwords, biometrics, or authenticator app tokens to gain access. 2. Identity federation allows single sign-on, SSO, across multiple systems by linking user identities and permissions across different platforms. 2. Password hash synchronization is one of those identity federation mechanisms. 3. Privileged access management, PAM, manages and monitors privileged access to critical systems, ensuring higher scrutiny and control over such access. 4. Software-defined networking, SDN, enables dynamic, policy-driven segmentation of network traffic to create micro-perimeters within the network. Continuous monitoring and analytics. Behavioral analytics monitors user behavior, device hygiene, and network traffic patterns to detect anomalies and potential threats. Security information and event management, SIEM, collects and analyzes log data to identify security incidents and provide real-time threat detection. Encryption and data protection. End-to-end encryption secures data both in transit and at rest, ensuring confidentiality and integrity. Data loss prevention, DLP, implements policies to prevent unauthorized access or transmission of sensitive information. Encryption and access control on a file level. Each file is encrypted and access is granted to those who have a business need. Encryption and access are controlled on a file level, not directory level. Application-centric security. Microservices security implements security measures within individual microservices to ensure security at the application level. Application layer access controls access to applications and resources based on user identity, device trust, and other contextual factors. Continuous authentication and authorization. Dynamic access control policies adjusts access privileges based on real-time changes in user behavior or context. Just-in-time, JIT, access grants time-limited access to resources for a specific period, reducing the exposure window for potential threats. User and device trust assessment. Endpoint security solutions assess the security posture of devices, e.g., antivirus, patches, compliance, before granting access. User behavior analysis analyzes user actions and interactions with systems to detect abnormal behavior or potential threats.